Welcome to Daily English Speaking Practicing. Today, we have a special story designed to help you improve your fluency and pronunciation. As you listen, try to repeat the sentences out loud. This practice, known as shadowing, is one of the best ways to get better at speaking naturally and confidently. It helps you master the rhythm and flow of English. If you find this helpful, please take a moment to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss future practice sessions. Now, let's begin with our story. The Map of Small Wonders. Leo lived a life painted in shades of grey. His apartment was a collection of muted tones, beige walls, a grey sofa, white dishes. Every morning was a precise, unvarying ritual. The alarm clock buzzed at 6:30. He would drink the same black coffee from the same white mug, looking out at the same grey street where cars whispered past like ghosts. At his desk, surrounded by the quiet hum of computers, the hours would blur into a long, monotonous river of spreadsheets and emails. He was an accountant, a man who dealt in the black and white of numbers, and that precision had seeped into his soul, bleaching out all the colour. His lunch was a sandwich eaten alone at his desk, staring at a spreadsheet filled with figures that had lost their meaning. He had colleagues, but he didn't really know them. There was Sarah, who always had a different colourful scarf. There was Ben, who talked about his weekend hikes. Leo would offer a polite, brief nod, but never joined their conversations. He felt as if he were watching his own life through a thick pane of glass. His evenings were spent in the suffocating quiet of his apartment, where the television offered the only colour, a flickering, artificial substitute for a life he wasn't living. One Tuesday, something different happened. The city, in its own impersonal way, intervened. The usual sidewalk was closed for repairs. A maze of orange cones and yellow tape, forcing him down a side street he'd never noticed before. Tucked between a modern glass building and a busy cafe was a small, dusty bookshop. The sign above the door, painted in faded gold letters, read, "The Dusty Shelf." On an impulse he couldn't explain, a flicker of rebellion against his own routine, Leo pushed open the creaking wooden door. The air inside smelled of old paper, leather, and something sweet like vanilla. Dust motes danced in the single beam of light from a high, arched window. An elderly man with glasses perched on the end of his nose looked up from a large, leather-bound book. "Lost or looking for something?" the shopkeeper asked, his voice raspy like dry leaves. "Just looking," Leo mumbled, feeling out of place. "The best things are found when you're not looking for them," the old man replied with a faint, knowing smile, and returned to his book. Leo wandered through the narrow aisles, which felt like canyons carved through mountains of books. He ran his fingers over the spines, their titles whispering of forgotten histories and impossible futures. He wasn't looking for anything in particular. He picked up a heavy, dark blue book about ancient astronomy, its cover embossed with a silver constellation. As he took it to the counter, the shopkeeper, whose nameplate read Mr. Abernathy, looked at the book and then at Leo. "Oh, the stars," he said. "People forget to look up these days." He wrapped the book in brown paper. "Sometimes," he added softly, "the right book finds you, not the other way around. Enjoy your journey." Leo paid for the book, the man's cryptic words echoing in his mind. Back in his apartment, as he opened the book, something slipped out. It was a small folded piece of parchment. He carefully unfolded it. It was a hand-drawn map of his own neighborhood, incredibly detailed. There were several red X marks on it, Next to the first X, a note in elegant handwriting said, "The Sunstone Bench." 7:15 a.m. Leo stared at it. His logical mind screamed that it was a joke. But Mr. Abernathy's words, "Enjoy your journey," came back to him. The greyness of his life felt so heavy, and this map was a tiny, inexplicable speck of colour. He decided, feeling foolish, that he would go. The next morning, he found the bench in the park. At 7:10 a.m., he felt a little foolish, but he waited. Then, at exactly 7:15 a.m., it happened. A single perfect beam of light shot through a gap between two buildings, hitting a small stone embedded in the concrete. The stone, full of tiny golden flecks, lit up with a warm, fiery light. The sunstone. It lasted for only a minute. Leo sat there, stunned. The second X led him to a narrow alleyway. The note said, "The Whispering Wall." 3 p.m. As he stood there, the wind created a soft whistling sound as it passed over the unique brickwork, like quiet, gentle whispers. He closed his eyes and listened. A few days later, the map led him to a long public staircase. The note said, "The Mosaic Step." Noon. He began to walk down, checking each one. Then he saw it. On the seventh step, someone, long ago, had filled a chip in the concrete with tiny pieces of blue and green tile, creating a beautiful miniature mosaic of a fish. It was no bigger than his thumb. Thousands of people must step on it every single day without ever seeing it. His journey continued, a secret pilgrimage through his own city. He found the hidden garden, a tiny courtyard behind an office building where an old man tended to a single perfect rosebush. He discovered the Echo Arch, a small underpass where a single clap would return as a series of 3 distinct musical echoes. He found the artist's balcony, where an elderly woman tended to brilliant red geraniums at exactly 4:30 p.m. He visited the baker's clock, where the smell of fresh bread flooded the street at precisely 8 o'clock. He found the cat's perch, a specific windowsill where a magnificent ginger cat slept every afternoon, and the puddle of stars, a dip in the pavement that, after it rained, perfectly reflected the streetlights at night. His life was changing. He started bringing a camera with him, documenting his small discoveries. He started talking to people. He had a brief, smiling conversation with the old man in the hidden garden about roses. He started saying good morning to Sarah at work and asking Ben about his hikes. The thick pane of glass between him and the world was beginning to dissolve. Finally, there was only one X left on the map. It was larger and marked on the rooftop of his own apartment building. The note simply said, "The treasure." That evening, he went to the roof. He looked around. There was nothing there. Just a flat roof, some vents, and an old water tower. He felt a wave of disappointment. He walked to the edge of the roof and looked out over the city. The sky was painted in brilliant shades of orange, pink, and purple. From up there, he could see his entire neighborhood. He could see the park with the sunstone bench, the staircase with the mosaic step, the underpass of the Echo Arch. He saw all the places that had brought him so much quiet joy. And in that moment, standing on the roof, he finally understood. The treasure wasn't an object. The treasure was the journey. The treasure was the ability to see. The map hadn't shown him where to find treasure. It had taught him how to find it everywhere. The treasure was the color that had returned to his life. He stood on the roof, filled with gratitude. The next day at work, he noticed Sarah was wearing a new scarf, a deep blue swirled with green. "That reminds me of a little mosaic I saw," he said. And for the first time, they had a real conversation. He showed her the picture of the mosaic step on his phone. Intrigued, they made plans to have lunch outside the office. His life transformed. He bought a small notebook and a fine pen and began to draw his own map, marking his own discoveries. One afternoon, he saw a young woman sitting on a bench, looking stressed and tired. It was the same woman he had noticed weeks earlier, but now he saw the person, not just a shape. He hesitated, then walked over. "Excuse me," he'd said gently. "I don't mean to bother you, but have you ever noticed that step on the staircase over there? The 7th one down." He pointed. "It has a little fish on it." The woman looked confused, then curious. She walked over, looked, and a small, genuine smile appeared on her face. "I've used those stairs for years," she said. "I never saw that." Her name was Maya. They talked for a few minutes, a brief connection that filled Leo with a warmth he hadn't felt in years. A few weeks later, he returned to the dusty shelf. Mr. Abernathy was there, just as before. "Did you enjoy your journey?" the old man asked without looking up. "More than you know," Leo said, placing his own newly drawn map inside a book about finding happiness. "I thought I'd leave this for the next person who was looking for something." Mr. Abernathy finally looked up, his eyes twinkling behind his glasses. "Excellent," he said. "The best maps are the ones that lead us back to the world." Leo left the shop and stepped out into the afternoon sun. The city was no longer grey. It was a vibrant living canvas of endless small wonders, and he was finally a part of it. No longer a ghost, but a cartographer of joy. All he ever needed to do was pay attention. Thanks for practicing today. See you in the next one.